When in Rome, do as the Romans do. So, the biggest aspect of a lot of people right now is the knowledge. Technically speaking, a lot of us don't have the knowledge to, be millionaires and billionaires. And it's not just from, just having the big experience about the money, it's more or less, you know, the knowledge on how to keep money in your pocket, how to overall don't just spend money wildly. You know, I was looking at an Instagram post, and they was referring it to the black community, and they were saying that black excellence came from thriving on being professionals, doctors, lawyers, to a standpoint in which the professionals then spin off gave a black excellence. And nowadays, black excellence, you know, thrives from the money being flaunted, the boasting, my car is better than yours. M Mills, what's going on? And ultimately, like the celebrity status, your image, your influencer. That's basically saying that you have some type of money. But in actuality, you know, there are more people spending money and not obtaining wealth, but just looking, we call it keeping up with the Joneses. A lot of other people, call it living above your means, to an extent. But overall, boss lady, what's going on with you? Alonzo in the building. And it comes down to simple, point of not being knowledgeable enough to know about money. You know, obtaining money. Prime example. Once I gave, well, I didn't do it. My wife, I think she gave my one of my twins when they were younger, gave them $20. Gave both of them $20. One took his 20, said he was gonna go buy some candy. What he had left, he was gonna keep. The other twin seen somebody, on the street, and they were asking for some money, and just gave him the money. His other brother was like, "Man, you crazy! Like, why'd you give him the whole thing?" And he was saying that, well, the lady wanted some money. I ain't had nothing but this, so I gave it to him. Hence, it taught my son a valuable lesson. Knowing the value of money. What's going on, Miss Patty's Kitchen? What's going on with you? And, you know, it hence gave him a valuable lesson learning the value of money because of all the things he could have got with that money after his sister explained to him and his mom. And, I was starting to be upset at first. And then that's when I told my son, I said, well, since you don't know what money buys and the value of it, I'm not giving you any money. If you want money, get it from your mom. This is going to teach you the value of money. Next time you give somebody some money willingly and not thinking of how much you're giving. So overall, he was a little upset, but when it came down to it, like sugar was going on, he started taking, value of money serious. You know, when somebody would ask for some money, he would generally give them a dollar or two. I've given homeless people $5, $10, just depending on the circumstances or how generous I was that day. But giving $20, it would be for a reason why I'm giving $20. And he just gave it willingly, just because, when it came down to it, his thing was, but I can just get more money from mommy and daddy. And I was like, no, that's not the case. Especially with you having $20 like that and just willingly giving it away, just not thinking of any harm or anything coming behind it. And that's the thing, kids having money is the same as almost to a degree giving a loaded gun to a child. Without the proper knowledge or know-how, it's irresponsible. And ultimately, it set the kid's mindset into a downhill spiral in which, just like having that loaded gun as an infant or a young child, they're just looking at it as a toy, a, something to play with, something just is meaningless. You know, I don't have to worry about this. This is something to be fun. And a lot of times we don't take things, literally to understand what's going on, cool game. We literally don't take things to heart like, hey, sorry about that. Make sure my Bluetooth was connected. Oh, I don't think it is. I think I ended up knocking the audio off. Mic check, mic check. Okay, there we go. Put a two in the chat if you can hear me clear. I have to pull my mic. I have to reset my mic. All right. And basically, if you see the thumbnail, follow the money. I'm actually gonna be dropping some videos. Got a little sponsor deal going on to where, for the most part, me talking about this and having conversations with a family member, they coming out with a clothing company, follow the money, and to the understanding that follow the money is a lifestyle, and having the knowledge to know when I get money, what am I gonna do with it? You know, I've had a lot of money at one time. I played over the money because, hey, you have all that money at one time and you're not being properly educated on the money. You kind of run through the money, you do things you shouldn't do, and overall, sorry, thank you, Miss Patty. But overall, without having that knowledge, you're just gonna mess over the money. And that's the whole biggest thing where a lot of younger the generation now coming up, they don't have no type of knowledge on the money. So when they obtain the money, they just go through it. The money is like water to a lot of young people because when it comes down to it, it's nothing to really hold on to. You know, I've never gotten the knowledge on what to do with the money besides spend it, you know, and pay bills. Other than that, you want to have the freedom to where you make money. Everybody wants to make $100,000. To do what with $100,000? Kevin Samuels coined the phrase high value man and make it 100,000. But if you make 100,000, then what? Is that enough? Because with most people, on average, that make $100,000, they typically spend and have $100,000 lifestyle. You know, when you're making $20,000, a year, you tend to, eat on a budget, spend frugally. But when you're making $100,000, you tend to eat steak, lobster. You tend to spend whatever you want because you always think the money's going to be there, and that's the issue with most people on this process. Um, the saying "more money, more problems." When it come down to it, there are so many people that literally don't know the value of money besides as long as I make enough, I'll be okay. But the problem is when you make enough, you spend enough. And that's the thing. Nobody's garnering that saving for rainy days. And the ones that are, typically you have a lot of people that have a savings fund, not much in there. They have a couple investments, not really, to the point of being raha happy or, something like that. Have some life insurance that, overall it pays more dead than alive because they don't structure their life insurance right. Shout out to Alonzo. We talked about this. And, having an IUL just to say I have one or having life insurance just to say I have life insurance. Alonzo hit me up on it. Having life insurance You take your salary and times it times 20. So if you make $50,000 a year, multiply that by 20, and that's pretty much a lifespan for most when you get to be within the realms of being an adult. Let's say 20, by the time you hit 40, you know, most people, typical age dying is about 55 to 65. So within a 20-year life, pretty much that's what they mostly give you when you go to jail, a 20-year, 20 to 25, I think they moved it up, but 20 to 25 to life. So you want to have that amount for life insurance. Nobody's never told you this. Somebody just, when you get the ramifications of just learning about life insurance and getting life insurance, that's cool. Now the process on getting life insurance to create generational wealth or getting life insurance to sustain life, that just lets me know I need more life insurance as well, you know. And with the IUL, if you structure it right, you can pay whatever amount that you need structured out to where something do happen. Over times when your IUL grows, you'll have that money there. But nobody's having this talk because why? We don't learn these things. This is not talked about throughout, a lot of people's lives. You have kids, you teach your kids on being respectful, being mannerable. You know, some parents are not teaching their kids about money because they don't know money. Some parents are not telling their kids to get life insurance or do things at a young age because most parents don't have life insurance. On average, there's about upwards of what? I would even give upwards of to like hundreds of people dying daily. Hundreds of people dying daily. And out of the hundreds of people dying, there's a low number of people that are actually covered through life insurance. And if so, they have a bare minimum coverage. Don't you know they did the numbers um, when C-19 happened? And I think the payout for life insurance was about $90 million. Was it 90 million or billion? I gotta hit Alonzo on those numbers. Just a quick Google search, real quick. Wish I had my. But I was sure. Okay, billion. Yeah, I know it's instead of million, billion. So about 90 billion dollars paid out. It was in the millions in the black community because we buy life insurance pretty much galore, but to a degree, we don't buy it properly. You know, more or less, I can go down through the line of most family members and friends and see how many people have life insurance. On average, my friend, his mom, well, my closest uh four friends I have, well, I'm sorry, closest three. Out of the closest three friends I have, two of them married, one of them is not. Two of them have life insurance, one of them don't. Guess which ones have life insurance? Guess which ones don't? The one who's actually married, he doesn't have life insurance. But the one who's married, the other one, he has life insurance, but he has the minimum that his mother bought into the policy, and he's just paying on that. The other one who's single, he has life insurance that he's also paying into a policy in which his mother got for him. What's going on, J3 Farm? And the one who's married with no life insurance, the crazy part about it is he makes the most money out of all. but he actually sit here and has enough, in 401k. He has a lot of money in his stocks and his investments and business to where he thinks that can sustain. Actually, it can, but when it comes down to it, having that life insurance is the more big of a cushion for him. But you know, I've been talking to him, willing and dealing with him, and I say, dude, of all people, you should have life insurance. He keeps putting it off. I don't see the benefit of it. I have my 401k that can take care of my family. And I'm like, wouldn't you want them to have more? And it just, to a degree, somebody who's structured their business to a degree, looks at things a little different than most. And honestly speaking, Alonzo, I even gave you your number. I've talked to him about it. He said he's gonna call you, but he's more or less looking at the right opportunity and right time for him. And with him, he's pretty much like me. He don't want to call and waste your time if he's not buying. So he's, getting some things squared away. But like I told him, I said, man, you could die tomorrow. I said, start now with the policy and pretty much go. I say, it's not like you're gonna have the policy lapse. You make enough money, but it's just you structuring your bills right, structuring things around. I'm like, hey, dude, if I can do it, you can do it, And the biggest thing is, like I explained to him, I'm like, dude, FBA goddess, what's going on? I haven't seen none of your posts lately, but what's going on with you? And a lot of times, like I say, we have these issues because our parents aren't teaching us this. Like I said, I learned life insurance through my great grandmother because my great grandmother went down the line through every one of the boys, every one of the girls, the adults. By the time you turn 18 to 21, you should have some life insurance. And then expectancy of you living past 18 when I stayed on the West Coast was rare. On average, most guys when I stayed out west was in the game. The life expectancy you live to see 21 was shallow. I mean, because you got into the game young, you was living a street life young. So like the gang life has calmed down for the most part, but back in the early 90s and the late 80s, that was the thing, you know. But nowadays, hey, but nowadays when you have that, you know, that gang life, it's more structured, it's more corporate now. It's not more just going out banging and shooting and wilding out. Things are more organized because the gang looks at life as, hey, I want to stay around for a long time. I want to enjoy and spend some of this money. Back in the day, we just shoot them, go to jail, just making money, quick money, fast. And that was the structure. But now it's more structured to say, hey, we need to sustain life and make money. Same as which parents should be teaching their kids, like, hey, I need you to learn about this life insurance. I need you to learn about money because if I'm not around or I'm getting to a point where I can't make it, I want to see you make more money than me. I want to see you become a millionaire within this family. You know, if I have 10 kids, at least I want to have 10 millionaires out of all my kids. If I can't have that, at least if I can have majority, at least half of my kids or more become millionaires, that would be a great thing. So it's my duty to teach my kids, hey, these are the ways to become millionaires. Follow the structure. Look at Jeff Bezos. Look at all these other people. Now, me and Alonzo had this talk as well. If you look at majority of the richest people and how they, became wealthy, it was off the back of their family. Um, Warren Buffett, dad was in banking, gave him some money. Donald Trump, his grandfather gave him a small $1 million loan to, amass his wealth. He always say small million, like small million. That just shows, to a degree how much money his family had. You had people who grew their wealth from the back of, just learning the Rockefellers, where, looking at the story of his family, how it started, I thought generally they were like the Vanderbilts, that they just came into money and have always had money. But the structure between the Rockefellers, the Vanderbilts, was slightly different because the Rockefellers kept giving the kids of every generation knowledge and passing down information about life insurance. And compared to the, Vanderbilts, their generation is, oh, we've always had money. You know, we just keep having more money. All our businesses that we have, they're doing well. But over time, business do tank, you know, and having a structure in which, hey, how things can, come about, how how are we gonna keep life sustainable? You know, how are we gonna keep making money? Prime example, I always give this, reference to, shout out to Alonzo. Oh yeah, when's your next luncheon that you're gonna have? Yeah, yeah. Once you get into um term, you get Rios family garden, what's going on? Once you get into term, permanent, or well, whole life, and then you get into IUL, they're just the tip of the iceberg. When you start making money, that's when the policies get big like that, Alonzo. And the thing is, if you're not even learning the first, one or two, you can't get to the three. Shout out to the 5 percenters, Go Professor, Kane the God. I'll be talking to them guys all the time. And, they have the one, two, and the three. The knowledge is in the numbers. The the knowledge is the man, which is one, the wisdom being the woman, which is two, and the understanding are the kids, which is three, you know. And a lot of times people don't grasp those concepts between the knowledge and the wisdom, with the man being the knowledge and the woman being the wisdom. So which one is greater, you know? And we want to have this debate in these arguments, but the knowledge and the wisdom is to be taught to the kids to have the understanding, in which a lot of times it goes over our head, just like I talked about the gender war conversation. And I really want to harp on that and keep going on with that because overall, we have these discussions, we have these talks, but we don't come to the, underlying issue, which is, you know, we're not giving our kids a fighting chance in life or in society because when it comes down to it, if the mother and father don't get along, then the kid suffers. If the mother and father don't get along, then the kids will be uh unfinancially stable because you gotta understand, I've always said it's by design to have a divorce or the mother and father not being married or together because now the child has two Christmas. The child has two households. They're torn between going to one, going to the other. If I have an issue with my mom, I cuss my mom out. I go to my dad's house. Me and my dad don't get along. My dad send me back to my mom's house. I can keep going between the two until both of them just write me off. Then I go stay with grandma. And that's typically, the working order in which things happen. Shout out to April Showers, what's going on. And we literally have this issue within the family and in rankings in which we can't get along because of what? Ego. And checking your ego at the door, saying that, hey, I'm doing what's in the best interest of my child. I'm giving my child a fighting chance in which I didn't have. A lot of parents forget that. Most men who grew up without their fathers typically always say, I'm not going to be like my dad. I'm going to be in my child's life. But history repeats itself because of bad decisions. You know, Instead of you going after a woman that you generally love and you both have each other's interests, peak with each other, you do things for each other, you actually working for a greater cause, yet you want to go with the woman from, I always keep saying this, society standards. Society standards put on men that, hey, you got to go after the woman with the body, the look, and all this, and you got to go after the woman that just generally gonna give it up. Society standard. Hey, you always gonna have sex. You know, putting men in the position to say, man, they love sex over everything. That's society standards putting it like that. Then you have it for the women. Women typically only deal with men who look good and have money. You know, I was just listening to a podcast with Derez Deshawn. Derez Deshawn is a rapper. He's pretty heavy guy, pretty big. Now, he said, man, when I didn't have no money, I didn't have no chicks. But he said when I got money, all the chicks came. I had to fight them off. I had too many. He said because they knew who I was, the money came with it. You know, and this goes back to the beginning what I was talking about. When it comes down to it with black excellence, like I said, I was looking at this video and they said black excellence back in, 50s, 70s, back on 1920s, it was always according to the doctors, the lawyers, the professionals, the business owners. You probably never went to college. You probably never did none of this stuff, but you had people that with a seventh grade, fifth grade education became business, entrepreneurs, own their own business. You know, you had these people that never went to school a day in their life. A lot of the things that they learned was from their family and was self-taught. Bronze flat power was going on. What's going on with God? And they literally have a better outcome, a better knowledge about life, being self-taught, learned through people, and overall not going into the school system. They literally had a big advantage than most people who went to school, not just because they had a business. They overall their mind wasn't structured to follow a path. you know when you go to school, teach you straight to get a job, you know buy a house, if you can get a family, get a wife. What is it, two and a half, 2.5 kids, so that's like two kids and a baby. you know House with the white picket fence. Back then you only could afford one car. Nowadays we have two cars. The wife has to have a car, the husband has to have a car, then the kids growing up, they have to have a car. We're spending more money than usual, but I'm digressing from this. I'm gonna go back to it. But we're spending more money than usual, and overall, these materialistic things, cars depreciate value. Soon as you drive your car off the lot, your car depreciated value. I can buy a Benz now and take it back to the dealership and say, "Man, I don't want this car no more. I want to trade it in for something else." Don't you know that $80,000 Benz I just bought, I only could sell it for 68 or 75,000? It depreciated value as soon as it went off the lot. I can't say, man, that 80,000 I paid this car off with, I want to carry that 80,000 and buy two other cars. No, sir. Doesn't work like that. You only got about 65, 70,000, you know, we can work a deal that way. But everything depreciates over time to a degree, but certain things, they grow over time because we don't pick to the value. Prime example, my wife. I bought my wife some gold chains and try to stay away typically from the diamonds, but the gold. She was sitting up there one day, was getting her chain clean, and we was at a pawn shop, and the lady was like, "Oh, your necklace is a little dull. We can clean it for you and everything." I'm like, cool. Yeah, let them go on and clean it. We'll pay this and that. I was like, I'm looking at jewelry anyway. Shine it up, make it look real good. The lady weighed it out. She was like, "Ooh, if you ever wanted to get a loan for this, You can get this amount of money. So my wife's like, okay, that's cool. That's nice. That's nice to know. And so one day she went in there looking for some stud earrings. Hello, what's going on with you? And when she went in there to look at for some stud earrings, uh, same thing happened. The lady was like, "Well, we can clean your jewelry for you. It won't take that long, and it's free. No problem on us. Thank you for being a loyal customer." Just boasting her to buy some jewelry. Came with the same approach. Put it on the scale, weighed it, and told her, "Hey, if you ever want to, get a loan out for this how much money we'll give you." And my wife called me. She was like, "Don't you know the chain actually they offered me 3 times as much last time when I went there and got the chain clean?" And I was like, "Oh, okay." And she was like, "Man, that's good." I was like, that's why I bought you a chain, right? I mean, if anything, gold is worth. I was like, if I'm struggling, I could sell that gold chain. If a situation happens, I can get rid of these four wheelers, the stuff that we have. The things that we have is still currency. You know, it might not be worth as when you first bought it brand new, but it's still currency. You can make money off of it. But going back into it, I digress the whole way. In the 1920s and the 40s and 60s, 70s, you know, the society we looked at, a lot of times I lost the name, black excellence. So we looked at black excellence on business owners, you know, people in professions, doctors, lawyers that, actually gave to society, the accountants, the people that helped run the business, the, you know, the people that, worked on cars, the mechanics. That was black excellence because you owned your business, you worked up under a business, and you did your thing. But then let's take it fast forward to this day and time where black excellence is showboating. Black excellence is keeping up with the Joneses, showing this money that you don't typically, are gonna have a long time because you're flaunting it. When it comes down to it, we spend the most money to a degree. And what do we have, for our money at the end of the day to show for? All this money that we spending on these nice cars, all this money we spending on the jewelry, the be influencers, to put it on the gram, put it on social media, and to do what? There are most people who, fake it till they make it. They'll literally show their nice car. They showed a video on Instagram one time where this guy had a Hellcat. That's about close to $100,000 car. He's taking a Hellcat, driving around the city looking real nice in it. They go to a storage unit and catch this guy in a storage unit, sleeping in a storage unit. He don't got nowhere to stay. Spend all his money on his car. They have other people they found. The one with Bow Wow. When you doing private jets, man, this is the lifestyle. Took a picture in the not even in first class, and the person behind him took the picture and was like, "Dude, you faking it. I'm right here behind you." Like, what in the world? Yeah, I mean, that's the thing with me too. Like, I have a '98 Dodge Ram. Um, that truck I bought it cash. Um, I bought another pickup truck. I bought that one cash, a 2010 Dodge Ram. My wife, she had a Toyota Camry. We paid note on that one. I had a van for business, which I, then used for personal. It was a minivan. We paid a note on that one, but my wife mostly drove that one. Now, this is the balance. The only reason I would get notes and try to hurry up because the Toyota, we paid that one off in I think 3.5 years. No, paid the Toyota, we paid that one off. Was it the Toyota or the Dodge? Pretty much, I think yeah, it was 3.5, and the Dodge, no. The Toyota was 4 years, and Kia, the van, we paid that off in 3.5. And the only reason we were able to do that because typically when we got our tax return, we just put the tax return on the bill. We didn't sit there and say, well, we got this tax return. Let's go buy some new furniture. Let's go buy a new TV. Let's go. No, pay off our bills. We took our tax return, pay off our bills. Any extra money we had, it went towards the bills, you know, and that's why we were able to pay our cars off like that. Same rule applied to a lot of the, other bills that we had, credit cards. We paid them off the same way. Right now, we just bought another car. We have 3 cars now. We just bought another car. Bought it cash. My wife, the way I told her, I say, well, we're gonna structure it this way. You go into your 401k, pull it out of there, pay the car for cash, and then just pay your 401k back. You're paying yourself back. You know, if I had $150,000 and pretty much cash, I would do a couple of things with that. For one, yeah, I mean, people do this all the time. They have these lifestyles in which they proclaim to be one way and they do another. You know, sleeping in the car is the worst. They had a guy, he was bragging about living in a storage unit so much that he got kicked out. I mean, don't you know the payment on a storage unit with climate control, I think run you about $100 a month. You literally have $100 a month place to stay, and you literally don't have no water, no heat. You can do Wi-Fi, or you can use your phone with a hotspot to where you have internet and stuff. Most of those storage units have plugs. You can get one that you can have a little a power pack that runs the TV or something like that. Keep it on low, put headphones on, crazy like that. But getting back to Mello, far as business wise, I would start a delivery service or something with the gig apps. I buy a couple of vehicles used and have some reliable people run a business that way. Another form too is buying a house, doing the bird method, getting a low income, probably somewhere around 80 to 100,000, and the 50 for the rehab. Rehab the house, fix it up, and the bird method. What is it? Buy, rehab, rent, and refinance, then rent it out. So once I did that, once I refinanced the house, I'm pulling out, equity out, whatever, starting my payments all the way over. But at the same time, I have someone renting out the property, and which that money's coming right back to me and some. So that's a key, for somebody that can do it that way. Hey, just get a house and do the bird method. Buy a house low that needs repairs. Um, get the repairs, get it appraised. 10 times out of 10, according if you all in for 150, especially in a good area, and you do the numbers right, you probably take a house for about 100,000, 80, whatever, in a good area, rehab it for about 30 to 50. You can get that house up to 200, 300,000. You can always go and sell the house, get that money back and capitalize on it real quick, or just rent it out and put it in your portfolio. Typically houses within a 5 to 10 year. you'll see a return on your investment, you know. But then there's the problem of having to pay capital gains tax. But then if you also deal with somebody like Alonzo, Alonzo can show you how to take that capital gains and that you would have to pay for taxes and put in an annuity to where you can get the full money at the end of the day if you know what you're doing. Hey, that's another way, paying off your life insurance. And that's a big thing too. I seen what Waka Flocka talked about. If he had a lot of money, he would just take his money, drop it in a life insurance, and then borrow from it the next day. And they typically don't want people to know that, but you can literally borrow from the money, you know. But it's all taxes, penalties, and all that stuff. You got to work out, but a lot of people don't, really take that, heed. Yeah, and see, that's the thing too. That's what I'm doing for me. My wife is using the method of 401k. I'm using more or less the life insurance route, and we're both covered on both ends to where she have access to hers just like I can have access to mine, but she has more built than hers than me. Mine has to mature, over time, which I can go and touch it now, but I'd rather have it, 10, 15 years before I actually take access to my life insurance before I start, taking money out of it, you know. Yeah, typically a lot of people don't understand that method of just getting property so you can pay it off, don't have no mortgage. Believe it or not, one of my friends, his daughter did that. Her mother passed and they wasn't together. So the daughter, was able to have access to the money when she turned 18. So when she turned 18, she literally took the money. She lived in Detroit when it was, real cheap to buy a house. She went and bought a fixer upper. I think she paid less than $1,000 for the house. And then she took 40,000 and fixed the house top tier, everything pretty much damn near new, And I'm like, these construction guys making money up there. I mean, because they were having houses that they were selling for $1 back in the day. You know, the cheaper the house, the worse off it was. One person bought a house out of state for $100. Then when he got there, he was like, "Man, this house is so bad, I got to tear it down." But at least he got the land for $100. you know, and he bought it off a picture that he seen, but he didn't know that was an old picture on Google. That's why a lot of people, typically have boots on the ground, have somebody there going to look at it versus you trying to, buy it offline, sight unseen. Okay. So and see, that's the thing. A lot of people typically don't have like money set aside for stuff like that. You know, and that's why I always told my wife, I was like, I don't want no car payment. So if we do get a car payment, the best thing to do is pay it off fast as we can. Like me and my wife been looking at a lot of these snowball effect videos where you're typically taking your bills and try to pay your bills off quick as you possibly can. What's going on, Prince? What's going on, Prince Pierre? What's going on with you? And so basically, with us trying to hurry up and pay these cars off, typically we don't have no car note. So if I'm already paying this money, I can put that money aside and do something else with it, you know, or I can invest, or I can, put it in a point to where I can do something with the money besides just, you know, off to the next venture, spending more money on something I don't really need. What's going on, Bunny Rose? And typically we have these points to where a lot of people they don't have savings. So if something dramatically happens, you know, where we getting the money from? Most people are already at the tip end of their credit card. You know, that reminds me, I got to pay my credit card by the fifth and everything. And I typically I learned this, learning to pay my credit card twice within the month before you have the billing cycle, and then you have the end of the billing cycle where your credit card statement is coming out, and then the monthly cycle in which your the cycle from the month. So you have those two. So my credit card, I have to pay by the fifth, but the billing cycle is for the 27th, the prior month. So if I pay before the prior building cycle comes out, which is on the 27th, if I pay the 25th and then turn around and pay again before the bill comes out on the, I got to pay it on the 5th. I've paid that bill twice. I learned that that helps your bill. I mean, that helps your credit utilization for one because you're paying twice on it, but you're bringing it down, and then it shows you're responsible about paying twice on the bill. Just credit hacks I've been learning. I'm googling this stuff. I'm looking at this stuff on videos. I'm watching Bigger Pockets. I'm looking at all these videos that can help me obtain money, and that's the biggest thing. A lot of us, we sit here, like I say, hands down. I talked to somebody in the chat one time, and they was like, I teach on my channel too, and they was in the class, and they was saying that pretty much, hey Rashid, it's not all of us out here. We just, messing around. We actually, out here doing stuff. And so, like I told them, I said, look, when it comes down to it, I'm not saying that with all in general, all the channels are not teaching anything. That's never the case. I'm just saying, when it comes down to it, being the entertaining part of your life shouldn't be always derived just being online just to be entertained. Like I've told people several times before I started my channel, before I got on panels and started talking to people, I strictly only went to YouTube for the information. That was it. Strictly for the information. That was it. I went learn how to fix my car. I went learn tips on how to start business and being an entrepreneur, which I did that successfully 3, 4 times over. You know, I've learned, situations on teaching my kids the value of money the easiest way because at the time, with them being young, my two older kids, I had to find ways to talk to them about money to where to be easier and understandable for them than to just say, hey, look, this is the value of money. You take this $20, you do this and you do that. I gotta relate to them. So things I learned about my son playing video games. I'm like, shoes, you want these shoes? Okay, these Jordans cost $250. I can get you 5 pair of Jordans. You know how much that would come out to? He's happy, almost 1,200 some dollars. Yeah, yeah, yeah. And I'm like, okay, now, do you think you deserve these shoes? Uh, I'm a good kid. I make good grades. Then I'm telling him, I'm like, hey, what is something that happened to all those shoes? You just want to go buy $1,200 more a pair of shoes? Uh, yeah, I don't think that could be obtainable. So I came up here with this notion. I said, okay, well, if that's not obtainable, why don't you just get 1 or 2 pair of shoes, take that money, put it in savings, and invest some of that money. Learn how to do this. You know, him as an adult, he has a few little investments, but more or less, me having that talk with him young and always talking with my son, he's putting money aside for a rainy day. He wants to buy a house. Dude got about 5,000 saved. He doesn't pay like real big on his bills, because he stays with his uncles, and he's like, all I gotta do is just pay this one bill. I don't pay nothing else but this one bill and pay my car note and car insurance, and that's it. And cell phone. So the majority typically like people, but hey, trying to teach them on the right foot is kind of hard if you don't have the knowledge yourself. So that's why I had to go seek the knowledge, especially just on talking to him as a young kid. The things that I know, they might be out of date. So I have to, refresh myself on these things too, and also approaching him with the same knowledge. Yeah, when it comes down to it, typically, like I was having a conversation about the gender argument, we have online this big old notion of everything what's online comes to everybody out, and it's starting to come true. With men saying that they don't want single mothers. I still see men dealing with women. Like this is a online argument that's trying to be pushed, and it's catching a move. But to a degree, I don't care. All these men say what they say. If they see a woman fine enough, kids or no kids, they're gonna mess with that woman. What's going on, Bunny Rose? I think I said hey to you early. And when it comes down to it, I got to get back to this, Alonzo. And when it gets back to it, the gender war, I mean, man or woman, you can pick a side. Either way it go, we all lose in this situation. We literally all lose in this situation. But literally, we all lose in this situation due to the fact that we're not taking care of our kids, the right way. Just because we have issue with the significant other used to be baby daddy, baby mama. I'm not doing the best thing for my child because I don't like this woman. She get on my nerves, so I'm crippling my son. Same thing with the woman. She has an issue with the baby daddy having a new girl, taking him to court to get more money, not letting him see his kid, crippling that child. Like I said, it's a domino effect. Most men typically only walk away when the fight gets too unbearable. You know, if that's like doing Jim Crow. Prime example. If a woman says, "Man, you can't see your child and this and that," I'm not gonna let you see your child. You're not gonna this and you're not gonna that. What can that man do? If he goes to the house trying to see his child, she goes to me, call the police, push him out the door, send a family member over there to beat him up if he comes over there and she tell him don't do it. You know, after so many unwanted, visits, it poses a problem. Pay your child support, and then typically that man reaches out to that kid when they get older. Don't be there for his child. You don't pay child support. You don't do anything for that kid, and then he just goes and make more kids. Just out here wilding out in the world. Typically, you know, everybody has this notion of where the good women at, where the good men at. There are a lot of good people out here. It's just those are the ones you didn't choose. So you gotta ultimately deal with those consequences of your actions. And a lot of times the child hurts the most, but child doesn't get the resources, the child doesn't get the attention, the education that they need to survive pretty much ultimately in a den full of wolves, you know. I talked to my bad with I'm constantly on him. I'm constantly getting him tutors. I'm constantly having people talk to him because he just like shuts it off most of the time. And I'm telling him, you're to an age now where making okay grades don't cut it. As one of his brothers already surpassed him. He's in all advanced classes. Every time he comes home and try to talk about something with homework, he's like, "Oh, I did that a couple of months ago. Oh, I did that last year. Oh, we've been doing this." And it comes to a point, like I tell my kids, I say, "Look, you're gonna get to an age to where we're not gonna be helping you guys with your homework anymore. It's gonna be to an age where you have to figure it out, pay attention in class. because some of these things that y'all taught, the new way of math, it's surpassing us to even, try to have this talk with y'all because the way we're taught and the way you guys are taught now is totally different. You can get the same answer, but the teacher doesn't accept the work in most cases because I've talked to teachers and they say, well, we're implementing this new system in which we learn. The teachers say, I'm sorry, I learned it the same way, but they're preferring the kids this way. And I'm like, okay, as long as we get to the right answer, that should matter. But new style, new way, new rules, new school, new year. So typically learning that way, you know, having that understanding, a lot of kids, they starting to get behind. If you don't have that mother and father always checking the grades, always being on top of what kids what they're doing, that's how they slowly get behind. Then you have a situation like this 18-year-old kid in Baltimore, 19 about to turn 19, get ready to graduate high school. They want to send this boy back to the ninth grade. I think his senior year, his grade in all total of all four core classes was a 16 or something. And I'm like, that made no sense. So that means you was literally getting five. You're not passing no tests. You're not passing quizzes. You're not even doing homework. Let's take homework out of the box. You pretty much not even doing classwork. Tests and quizzes are a big part of most kids' grade, which they don't understand. You can get all A's on your classwork and your homework, and you'll still fail because in the curriculum, and most people when they look it up, they tell you that 30% or 40% of your grades are quizzes and tests. So for a lot of kids not learning, let alone learning the basics about school, and then having an issue with life, not being able to count money, not being able to, obtaining the knowledge of, what to do with money when I get it. I mean, let's not get it twisted. A lot of people can get money, but what are you going to do when you get the money? When you obtain the money, what good is it if you don't know what to do with it? You know, I was having a conversation on the channel, and I'm about to get ready to get off of here, kind of late. Um, we was talking about men who make middle class money anywhere from the sums of 35 to 40, no, 35 to $80,000 a year. Middle class is around 40, I think 47, but pretty much that range from 35 to 80, 85, 35 to 85,000. And we were having a conversation, and the conversation where women were buying more houses than men. And the default, men always we find a study, because hey, we right on it. We want to have this issue or something that's going on. We want to solve a problem. We want to find out what's the solution. The solution mainly they pulled it up was a lot of women got houses during divorce, and a lot of women got houses when their spouse died. So a lot of women obtain houses that way. Married, loving family, but the husband died, or married and things went south and they got a divorce. Yeah, yeah, we can go through that all day. But the general underlying statement in which a lot of people wasn't talking about was the knowledge. A lot of those dudes who were middle class that made that money, they don't want a house. A lot of people don't want that responsibility because why? My parents didn't own. My parents rented. You know, my parents didn't do this. Why should I do? You know, henceforth, just because you stayed in a home and your mother and your father were together, but they never taught you about money, you're not going to go buy a home. You're gonna go hang with your friends, get out of college, or go to college or not. But your friends are out here buying Jordans and Hellcats. Guess what you do? You rent and buy Jordans and Hellcats because that is the norm of society. All the men do that. The norm of women of society now is to be the boss chicks, be independent. That's the norm of society. So they're going starting business, which technically speaking, most men and women who start their business is always a single employee. Them. They don't have no other employees. They're not the boss of anything because when you start really doing the numbers, what's going on, Queena? When you start doing the numbers, everybody want to have that boss status of I'm an entrepreneur, but you don't have no employees. You don't even have your kids working for you because you can't teach them this stuff because you're winging it on the fly. Your employee's gonna make you look bad. Don't you know how bad it is to have somebody to come work for you and they're more knowledgeable about the business than you? You know, someone has a food truck, all you know how to do is cook. But this person know how to cook. They know how to do QuickBooks. They know how to, order in bulk from wholesale with your license. They know how to, advertise on social media. And all you know how to do is cook. Prime example. Hence the Keith Lee, where the lady down in Texas, you know, had her son's friend come over there to do hair, and her brother does. He's a barber. They out there cutting hair at the lady's food truck to the side now, not inside. But generally, Keith, she advertised the lady who was doing the hair. She advertised people to come down there, and she's like, Keith Lee, we want you to come down. Boom, boom, boom. So Keith comes down there, gives this lady, money, then give I think he gave it like to the sum of 4,080 bucks because he paid 80 bucks for the food. He said it was overpriced, but at the same time it was well seasoned. That's the name of her truck. Something all season, well seasoned. And then turn around, she was supposed to give the lady who was braiding the hair 1,000, supposed to give the guy who was cutting 1,000, and she kept the two, and she was supposed to be giving out plates to people, you know, ultimately shorted her blessing. You know, this where it goes into where business, learning business and knowing what you're doing pays off. This literally, this lady literally messed up a blessing, which 10 times out of 10, I've heard everybody who dealt with Keith Lee and gave them a good review, their business exploded. The lady who made cakes, this lady is probably on her way to become a millionaire just off of Keith Lee going to her talking about how good her cake is. And it's crazy how we have these conversations, but we don't really have these conversations when it comes to business, you know, that you're a sole proprietor, of one, but you're a business owner, right? You know, prime example, I've worked with people in business. You know, I've had my own business. Me and my friend, we partnered up and started a business. It wasn't just me and him as employees. We hired two people. Hired his sister, and we hired some guy we didn't even know because we needed an extra driver. And we were going to in the process of hiring more drivers. Then, just unforeseen things happen, but that's business. But overall, when it comes down to it, you know, let's have the talk. A lot of people are not teaching their kids finance. A lot of people are not teaching their kids the structure of business, so it doesn't work. Prime example, and I got to do more gardening on this channel too as well. But I literally have my sons in the gardening challenge. This is how I was able to, you know, influence them in the garden, even though they have their video games, always watching TV, always trying to be in the latest trends and doing things. I made it perfectly clear on this. I said, look, for every flower that you grow, as far as vegetables, fruits, or whatever, I'll give you $10 for every one that you grow. So if you grow tomatoes, I don't care if you grow 5 or 10 tomato plants, you'll get 10 for that. You'll get 10 for how many watermelon seeds. I already planted the seeds. I got seedlings coming up. They get money for that. Then they get money for the biggest fruit or vegetable or whatever that we grow. They get $100. They're only able to get 100 twice. So you only can obtain $200, and depending on whatever you grow, 10 for those. And I have a couple of seeds and everything, and a couple of things I'm having them to grow, and that's how I'm able to get them to grow. Because gardening right now to kids is boring. It's not, and just seeing their faces when they see the um what was it that grew so quick? The cucumbers. The cucumber seedlings like growing out the roof. I gotta actually take them out the cup and put them in a pot because they're growing so fast. And just showing them that, oh man, that's good. And see, that's the thing. Most people won't take that initial step in doing that. You know, like I was telling my wife, you know, if it gets to the point where I get, we get a pretty good rate, I would rather go ahead and refinance now because we're not that far off into this house to where I don't think we would lose a significant, amount of money. But that goes with property tax. Property tax always goes up, and a lot of people don't look at that. A lot of people don't look at the property tax going up. You know, even like the guy that does refinance, my cousin got his house refinanced, and the guy was doing the refinance. He refinanced his house 6 times. Now, refinancing your house, it comes at advantages and disadvantages for most people. If you don't know what to do with the money and you're ultimately screwing over the money, you lose out in that process. One of the guys I know, he refinanced his house. He put majority of the money that he refinanced his house back into the house, just to get a lower rate. But overall, he was doing good. He knew how to handle the money. And this guy, this is an old military vet, him and his wife, and he gets what is uh veteran check. He get a check from the VA for him. He still works and he gets that check. Because a lot of times, man, we don't give a lot of praise to a lot of the vets that, took their time and fought in wars and did things. This guy did several tours, you know, and just loud noises, get him shook to a degree. If it's too loud, he's grabbing his hip and it's nothing there, you know. And that's the thing. But I gotta get off of here. I gotta get to work. Gotta make me some money. But with that being said, shout out to everybody that came through. Hit the like button on your way out. Um, Teach your kids. If you don't teach your kids, teach grandkids. Teach neighbors. Teach some kid something worthwhile and give them something, to take on the responsibility of loving and, whether it be finance, whether it be gardening, just giving them something to obtain. You might can go through the grandkids, nieces and nephews, somebody kid out there needs a little more attention than most. Help them out, you know, because that's the biggest thing. We forgot about the song, I believe the children of our future, you know, a lot of people have forgotten about the children being the future, you know. And like I've said on most cases, a lot of us as parents and adults, we're jacked up, we're messed up in the head. It's gonna be to a point. Joy, what's going on? I caught you live this weekend and you caught one of mine. Shout out to you. Shout out to you. Yep. I see you got your wrench. Yep. Everybody got their wrench in the chat. But when it comes down to it, teach your kids something. You know, ultimately they the next generation. If you don't know nothing, it's your duty to teach your child something and to be better than you. I want my kids to be better than me. If I drive the truck, I want them to own the company. You know, if I'm a millionaire, I need my kids to be a billionaire. And that's the motion in which I'm trying to push on my kids. If I don't make a million, they need to make a million. You know, I want them to be successful. And that's the thing. I got to teach them the way and be successful. And this is the biggest issue with a lot of parents. If I can't teach my kid to be successful, guess what? I got to go out here and find somebody that can. Yeah, I'm doing good. How you doing? Okay. All right. Yeah, that's what I was doing the other day because I was on YouTube and I seen your channel popped up and I jumped over there. Got a lot of people I sub to over there from your channel as well. Shout out to I think Go Professor. I believe it was him that told me about your channel or somebody. I can't remember. But like I say, shout out to everybody. Teach your kids something. Don't let them be out here lost in the system right now. Teach them about money. Teach them in order to, survive out here. Because as parents, we're not gonna always be here. Oh, that's pretty good, but I'm not worrying about my watch hours. I just do it to give the knowledge. If I get it just off the whim of me doing YouTube, then I'll take it more serious. But other than that, I'm just more or less giving out the information. If it gets to a point where I get monetized, I just get monetized. But more or less, I'm just trying to get the information. Let it be. So with that being said, shout out to everybody. Each one teach one. You know what I always say? We here and we gone. Peace.